I think that it is rich that I am sat here and being asked what I have to do to stop foreign influence and foreign interference as a Canadian citizen, while we sit here with MPs like Jennifer O'Connell, who said boo-hoo to Conservatives who wanted actual elected politicians working with foreign governments to be exposed.
So I am a regular Canadian. So, sorry, I take it you don't take responsibility.
Lauren Southern is officially Canada's BAMF of the year. Now, full disclosure, I've had Lauren Southern on the show. We're friendly. We've actually been at conferences together. We were both speakers at the recent Reclaiming Canada conference back in June in Victoria, of which there was a list of other speakers as well, including Lauren Chen. We'll get into that, but she didn't actually make it to the conference. Lauren Southern did. She was fantastic. I'd like to say that Lauren Southern is a great person. She's a amazing speaker and a fantastic mother. And on top of that, let's get into the news that's happening. So we'll set a little context for people that don't know this story, the story surrounding Tenet Media. Well, this all comes into play here, and why Lauren was even summoned to come to this committee. Now, this is from CBC News. A grain of salt. Meet the right-wing Canadian influencers accused of collaborating with an alleged Russian propaganda scheme coming from the Canadian propaganda outlet of, the CBC state broadcaster. Of course, we know how much money they get from the federal government to spew their stuff. But what is this? What is this all about? This actually came out of an American story. American news about the U.S. Justice Department, how they unsealed an indictment against two Russian nationals accused of setting up a conservative media outlet as a front for pro-Kremlin propaganda. The media outlet was unnamed in the indictment, but it was clear from the details that the charges referred to Tenet Media, founded in 2023 by Canadian influencer known as Lauren Chen and her husband, Leon Donovan. Now, this all took place in the United States, not in Canada, but the Canadian government is putting on a committee to look in to try to get to the bottom of all of this stuff. Now, if you want to learn more about this, perhaps I'll put a link in the description. Mark Dice has been doing the best coverage on this. Actually, out of anybody who's been doing coverage on this story, Mark Dice pointing out that this actually looked like a honeypot, a scheme to pull in influencers, right-leaning influencers during a time that the U.S. election was occurring, and buy them in and then make them look like they're Russian propagandists, even though in the indictment itself, it says that these people who were given money, it was unbeknownst to them. They had no knowledge of the fact that any of this stuff could have come from Russians or whatever, and they were given full say in what it is that they produce. And well, Lauren gets into that in her testimony. Now, she went on to testify to say that because of this indictment, she's been pressured by CSIS and even given some weird, and I want to say, it seems like mafioso type, ultimatums of, if you have a really nice life there, it'd be a real shame if we ruined it for you. And this is a serious accusation towards our law enforcement in our own country, if this is actually the case. And I'll get into that clip right here.
Ms. Southern, have you been contacted by Canadian or American law enforcement about your role in the Russian-run Tenet Media op, given the U.S. indictment?
Yes, as I mentioned, CSIS came to my house while I was making dinner for my child and tried to speak with me, but did so in a way that I was not comfortable with. And I have also, quite frankly, experienced quite a bit of harassment and stalking from them. When I told them I did not want to speak, they called me dozens and dozens of times. They found my gym. They told me that if I did not essentially become an informant for them, that I love being a mother, I love my child, and I would love to see him grow up and be there to provide for him, and it would be a shame if something happened to me. So I'm not too impressed with the state of law enforcement in this country right now, to be honest.
No, and I would absolutely agree with that. If they're giving ultimatums and threatening people to come forward, not just asking them, hey, would you like to do the right thing? Would you like to come forward? Would you like to do this? No. Threatening people with harassment, further harassment moving forward. Now, this is Lauren Southern's testimony and her official statement as she got into it. And I'm going to let this one play out because this is this is amazing, and it's great to hear someone standing up so much against the government. And by the way, this is both sides of the government. This is the conservatives. This is the liberals, both coming into this committee, coming at her on this one.
Honorable Chair, esteemed members of this committee, I would like to thank you for so enthusiastically inviting me to speak today. My name is Lauren Southern. I am a filmmaker, a YouTuber, and a proud Canadian. In late 2023, I was contracted to make weekly videos by a startup company called Tenet Media. Then recently, the U.S. Department of Justice released an indictment which alleges the founders of Tenet created the company in conjunction with 2 Russian citizens, with funding ultimately originating from the Russian government. Per the indictment, the founders of Tenet Media deceived the personalities they contracted regarding their alleged source of funding. I'll make a few points clear at the outset. At no point in my involvement with Tenet did I ever have knowledge of the allegations in the indictment. And 2, the only person who ever had any creative control over my videos was me. No one from Tenet or anywhere else ever dictated what topics I covered or what opinions I held. I always seek to fight disinformation in all of its forms, and therefore I have a duty to inform this committee that disinformation has been spreading within these very walls. Some in the media and even witnesses to this committee have attempted to paint a picture of Tenet as a hugely influential player in the political media landscape. This, frankly, is just not true. A previous witness to this committee, who went unchallenged, stated that Tenet Media controlled a network of over 16 million subscribers. This is not true. On their largest platform, YouTube, Tenet had barely over 300,000 subscribers. I believe the 16 million figure referred to the total number of subscribers among all of the personalities who had videos contracted or licensed by Tenet. Subscriber base is that, given all of the facts, Tenet had absolutely no control over. To claim that Tenet controlled those subscribers would be like claiming that a TV network had influence over the United States presidency because they air reruns of The Apprentice. The same witness claimed Tenet garnered over 1 billion video views and 20 billion impressions. I have absolutely no idea where those numbers came from. Very readily available public data shows that on its largest platform, YouTube, Tenet received only 16 million total views. Based on the witness's specious numbers, he asserted that Russia received extraordinary value for their money. Anyone with even a cursory understanding of new media would know, however, that $10 million for 16 million views on YouTube hardly qualifies as extraordinary value. In fact, it qualifies as a total failure. So there is, in fact, a silver lining here. If the allegations are true, it appears Russia did attempt to influence Western media, but they failed pretty miserably. Now, I know the chief concern of this committee is how this debacle may have influenced Canadians. Well, I was the only Canadian commentator and the only host that consistently discussed Canadian issues. In fact, if the company had any creative control over me, which they didn't, they probably would have asked me to stop making Canadian videos since they didn't perform very well. So if you were worried about this alleged Russian money unduly influencing Canadian issues, good news, didn't happen. And I'll be honest, it has been surreal for me to watch our government, experts, and media assert that scripts I would jot down in my notes app in a line at the grocery store were secretly part of a giant foreign influence campaign. Arguably, the largest actual impact on Canadians here has been the amount of tax dollars they've had to spend investigating this non-issue. Some in the media and this government seem to have concluded that the only reason a regular Canadian could possibly hold certain views that do not align with the current Liberal administration is because of pernicious, widespread Russian disinformation. I would like to propose an alternative hypothesis, and I know it may sound insane. I know this breaches the borders of conceivable thought, but maybe, just maybe, some Canadians consulted their own moral compass and decided they don't want this country funding foreign wars. Maybe they looked around them at the hospital lineups or housing prices and thought immigration might be a little high. Maybe they lost their business during lockdown and think, I worry about my freedoms in this country. Some in this government are hell-bent on drastically exaggerating the extent of foreign influence because they can't seem to stomach the idea that they might be wrong about something and that a growing majority of Canadians legitimately and organically oppose what they are doing. They simply can't conceive that they are becoming unpopular naturally, so there must be foul play at work. Let me make this abundantly clear once more. No one but myself and my true experiences as a Canadian have informed my opinions. And to any members of this government who may be listening, I would suggest you familiarize yourself with these opinions because they are rapidly becoming the views of the majority of this nation. Thank you.
Amazing work by Lauren Southern, as always. And one real tragedy of this whole situation is when the channel went down, when Tenet Media went down, Lauren Southern's content that was on the channel also went down with it. As she said in the video, she was not influenced by any bad players in that. She did her content solely on her own and with her own discretion. And the videos were actually really good. And one of the videos, in fact, prompted me to call her up and say, hey, come on the show and let's chat. And we talked about it. And it was one surrounding mass immigration. Now, the committee went on and there's a bunch of other clips, and I'm going to get into that for the sake of the video, not going too long. I'm going to get into that tonight in my live stream. So tune into the live stream. It's at 9:30 Eastern and 6:30 Pacific time. Tune in for that. We're going to go over a bunch of this stuff. But yeah, Lauren Southern's videos that were up there, I hope maybe she can get her hands on some of that and republish it, because her talking about the mass immigration story led to a lot of the popularity, led to, it was another one of those stories that led to a lot of people becoming more aware of what's going on in this country. Legitimate issues that, in fact, Justin Trudeau has made steps to align himself with those issues. So if she's been a Russian propagandist, is Justin Trudeau a Russian propagandist for going along with these things? No, at the end of the day, she was raising the story of real issues. Whether or not this indictment is accurate, whether or not this indictment is true on Lauren Chen, Lauren Southern is definitely in the right in this situation. And we have all sides of this government going after her. And well, I got to give a tip of the hat, obviously, to her for having the more balls than any of the men in Ottawa to go up and stand up to this monster that we know as our bureaucracy. That's exactly right. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about all this, and we'll see you tonight in the live stream. Keep on trucking.